Jace Bauserman for Bowhunting World and Archery Business Magazines. You know, it's February, it's the off season, and I've been getting a lot of questions about arrow building. Making your own arrows, cutting them to size, fletching them, wrapping them, the whole 9 yards. So I thought, what better way to answer those questions than to show you what I do to build my own custom arrows. We're going to take you through this in a step-by-step process. So here we go with step number 1. I always order my shafts as bare shafts. I never get anything fletched because I want to cut my own arrows. And if you get fletched arrows, you're going to have to cut those off. If you get the bare shafts, you can either use your own arrow saw to cut them down or take them to your pro shop. They'll cut them exactly the way you need them. If you are going to use your own saw, I highly recommend writing down the arrow name and the exact length you need to get it cut to. That way you can use this reference for years to come if you stick with that same arrow. Another thing you'll notice what I do is I do remove the knock in before I cut the shaft. The reason I do that is I feel like it gives me a real square setting when I lay it in the saw. I feel like it gives me good contact, and I know that that is nice and flush and true. Now, before we cut this shaft, one of the things I want to talk about on this particular saw, if you've noticed, I've removed the guard. And the reason I've removed the guard is so that I can see when I lay my arrow in and line it up exactly where that blade's going to contact the shaft. So, since I've removed that, I take a pair of safety glasses, I click on my saw, and I got an arrow cut, set, and ready to go. Step number 2. When you cut your shaft, what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of carbon fiber that gathers on the outside. Plus, some of that carbon fiber is actually going to go down inside the shaft itself. So what I do is I grab an alcohol wipe, and the first thing I do is I clean the outside of that really, really well. And then I take, just like I would if I were cleaning a gun, I take that same alcohol pad, I wrap it around, and I use an Allen wrench, and I just get that wrapped around there good and tight. I go right in where I'm going to put my insert, and I'm going to really make sure and clean any debris, any carbon that's gathered in there, so that when I move on, I can get my insert glued in and I'll have a good tight bond. Let's move on. Step number 3. Step number 3. It's time to get the insert glued into the arrow. So what I want to do is I want to make sure and I want to apply a fairly healthy amount of glue here because you can always wipe off the excess. And I like to get that insert nice and covered. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that insert and in a twisting motion, I'm going to put it inside the shaft and I'm going to go ahead and twist that. What that twisting motion does is it really gets that glue to go. Then I'm going to pound it once on a hard surface. We're seated flush. I'm going to take a wipe and I'm going to get my excess glue removed, and I've got my insert in, and I'm ready to move on to step number 4. Step number 4. After I've cleaned the top portion, the knock-in portion of my shaft with a good arrow wipe to remove any grease, any oils from your hands, anything like that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach my wrap. And I always use a wrap, and the reason for that is really threefold. First, I want to be able to track my arrow in flight. Second, I always want to find my arrow after I shoot it in an animal, whether I hit it or miss it. I want to be able to inspect that arrow, and a good bright wrap will help you do that. And 3, I just think it looks cool. For this particular arrow, I'm going to wrap it up with Bronco Orange. The Broncos just won the Super Bowl, but Boning has a ton of different wrap options. You can find just about anything you want. When applying the wrap, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get it peeled off here, and there's several ways you can do this. One, you can lay it flat and then roll the shaft onto the wrap itself, but I prefer to stand the shaft up straight, especially with these Carbon Express arrows and with that knock collar that sticks out a little bit, and I like to go ahead, stand it up straight, get it pressed down right up against the shaft, come down, get a good solid contact, and then I want to lay it down on my magazine, and now I want to roll and pull, roll and pull, roll and pull, and roll and pull until it's all the way across, and I've got it seated, sealed, ready to go, And I'm ready to move on to step number 5. Step number 5, I'm ready to go ahead and attach my vanes. I'm using Bowhunting's Blazer vane, just a great vane. I've had really good success with it, really good downrange flight. I went with the teal with the tiger stripe, kind of stay with that Bronco blue theme, orange. And before I get ready to go here and fletch this arrow, I'm going to once again remove the knock in. And the reason for that is Bowhunting's tower jig that I've got here has posts, and you got to remove that knock so that the arrow slides down and sits flush on the posts. And the cool thing about Bowhunting's jig is it comes with a bunch of different size posts to match different size arrow diameters. Works really great. You can fletch up arrows quickly. The arms that I choose, and you can go with different arm options, but I choose the right helical, and I like a helical fletch because I shoot a lot of fixed blades heads and a lot of expandables, and that helical fletch gives me a real good spin on my arrows, helps boost accuracy in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead, I've got my vanes laid in the arms here, I'm going to go ahead and apply my thin line of Pine Ridge glue to each one of the vanes in the arms. Got them ready to go. I'm going to suck the arms up. I'm going to bring my arm presser down. And I'm going to go ahead and get it lined up. And then I'm going to squeeze her together. Slide down. I've got good vane contact. I can hear that glue sucking to the shaft. I'm going to give that about 10 or 15 seconds. Get it out of there. We're ready to move on to step number 6. Step number 6. What I'm going to make sure and do is I'm going to put my knock end back in. I've got my arrow. It's out of the jig. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a needle and some glue that I put on my magazine cover here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and I'm going to apply a thin little layer of glue to each one of the base and the front of each of these vanes. Step number 7. I'm going to set this arrow up to dry, and the reason I like to do that is because even though I got really good vane contact when I pressed with the tower jig, I like to give that glue plenty of time to set up and plenty of time for the glue that I applied to the front of the vane and to the back of the vane. Good time to dry. A couple hours should do it, and I'll be ready to shoot. I'm Jace Bauserman for Bowhunting World Magazine. I hope you enjoyed our arrow building tutorial. We'll see you next time.